Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 28. I'm pretty excited for this episode because it's one of those rare episodes where I'm kind of like diving into the complete unknown. I'm going into the world of Warcraft, the world of World of Warcraft, I guess is how you would put it. So I'm coming in here completely blind alongside you guys, I suppose, unless, of course, this woman that I'm with. Hi, hello. I actually didn't ask how to even say your name, and I should have done that before, from the very get go.
That's okay. So many people say Eiya, but I pronounce it Eiya.
Okay,
So
Aya. All
yeah.
right. Okay, very cool. Aya. All right. So thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
I should have done it. I introduced myself and gave you no time to introduce yourself. So my bad. My
That's
bad.
okay. That's okay.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm really looking forward to hearing. So, like, as I said, like completely, like I'm totally out of it. Of course, like most people in our generation, I played World of Warcraft, of course. But
Uh-huh.
as far as anything beyond that, as far as the esports world, I watch like world first runs, like that type
Uh-huh.
of stuff. I think that's fun.
It
But
is
everything
fun.
else, total,
That's
total
okay.
newbie, total newbie.
My
Uh,
I'm a newbie with StarCraft, so we're even on that front. I like wandered into a StarCraft like competition at BlizzCon one year, and that's probably it.
yeah, yeah. That's the nice thing about BlizzCon, though, isn't it? You just
Yeah.
kind of wanted the esports.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you have
but
time.
right, yeah, if you have time, that is part of it. Yeah, yeah. I guess this is actually kind of also one of the few guests that I have that don't know anything about StarCraft. Almost everyone I interview is like, I came
Oh
from
no.
StarCraft, or I still watch it, or something along those lines. And
Oh,
only like
I'm
you might be the second person who's actually coming in here is like, I've never watched StarCraft in my life.
well, maybe I'll have to start learning to play it at the least
Oh,
for
I
this.
don't mean to guilt you. It's just
Nah,
one of those easy common threads, I suppose, in esports, right?
yeah. Well,
Um, but World of Warcraft's been here even longer than
mhm.
StarCraft too, actually. Um, so it's kind of weird that I guess. Well, I mean, it's not too weird. StarCraft 2 still was the birth of modern day esports, but we'll get into that later.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody at least should respect StarCraft as an esport. It's been around for so long, so
Yeah, people generally do.
yeah.
So, generally, start off by just kind of letting you tell your story, and I am very eager to hear it. So, the first question: how did you get into esports in general?
Okay, so well, first I've been gaming forever since I was like 9 years old. I started with like Unreal Tournament and stuff, and then World of Warcraft kind of became my main game. So I was streaming for quite some time, just like really casually when I was still in school for my degree. Um, and then when I graduated, I kind of looking for a job in my career field for my degree at the time. And then kind of like streaming casually and not really sure what I wanted to do. And then I knew some people that were sort of running community tournaments with which is GCT TV. We kind of talked about before we started recording, but they basically were these group of people that were running community World of Warcraft arena tournaments. And one of their admins for the tournaments had just been hired by Blizzard, and so they had a space open. They needed someone to help them run their tournaments, and I was available. I was obviously like a capable person according to them, so I just started doing their little tiny little GCT tournaments on the weekends, and I also helped do some video editing for them, and and then I did stats producing for a little bit as well. So I feel like when you're at the community level, you kind of wear a lot of hats. So I was doing a lot of different things, and then about in 2019, GCD had kind of blown up to where we were like officially contracted by Blizzard to help run their Arena World Champion program, and or their AWC program, and then they needed a talent. They needed someone to do interviews on camera, and I threw my name in the hat. I submitted a video, and they liked me enough, and I kept doing that instead, and now that's kind of what I do full time.
All right, that's a very succinct way of telling your story.
Yeah,
That was easy.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so more detail, I guess, on the whole, like getting picked up by GCD TV. I mean, it really was just like they made like a general call out, or
I was like, it was just kind of, they just happened to be the people that I was already playing World of Warcraft with and like
oh,
hanging out with. So Like I knew that they kind of did it on the side. I wasn't like a giant arena fan at the time. I was like super into World of Warcraft, but I've always been sort of a casual and like, I knew the big arena names, like CD and stuff like that. But I wasn't like hugely into that scene. And I think that they kind of wanted that. They kind of wanted someone that was capable of like doing their job while not being just like someone, because I feel like in esports, and maybe you've experienced this, I feel like you get a lot of people that are just fans of the game that just want to get involved just because they're fans of the game and not because they necessarily think that they have something to contribute, and they don't necessarily know exactly what they want to do. So I think that they liked that about me, that I was like willing to work hard, but wasn't just wanting to work in esports just because it sounded cool. Um, so yeah, what was the original question? Did I answer that?
You did answer it, yes.
Okay,
you're
okay.
you're kind of
Yeah,
you're
so they knew I like, had a college degree, and they just were like, "Hey, you're not really working right now. Would you like to help us with with our tournaments?" And I said, "Sure." And it just developed from there.
you having a college degree, something they found desirable?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't it's definitely not like a requirement, but like I don't think many people in esports have college degrees or degrees that are related to what they do. So I don't know if that was. I don't know. I'd have to ask them if they thought that made me more capable or not. But
Yeah, it's I would say that most of them. I guess yeah. I'm trying to think of everyone. A lot of them don't. A lot of them were in
hmm
college, right? And then because a lot of them are around kind of my age who have been
exactly.
in the industry for so long that they were in college and then had to decide usually like do I want to go full time or not.
Yeah, yeah. Like I know people that even dropped out of college because they were kind of doing esports community stuff for fun, and then it turned into a full on career. But yeah, like my degree is in tourism. It's not related at all.
Well, I mean, it's still kind of sick, right? Like you
Yeah,
travel as an esports person, it makes some
yeah.
sense.
I've learned some skills that have come in handy for sure, and I don't regret my time.
Nice, yeah. I mean, sometimes people like, quote unquote, real jobs
Mhm.
will look at a college degree as just proof that you can commit to something,
Yeah.
that you've done, homework and done things on time, presumably.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's like there still is that feeling that a college degree is necessary, even though there's a lot of pushback on that in today's world, and certainly
Yeah.
it's not even really talked about for esports as as anything basically. Like as
Mhm.
far as college degrees are talked about, it's basically did you go to college? No, okay, that's not surprising. Like all right then.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
I think even like a year ago I made a tweet about it. I was like, I think it was something along the lines of like, "Hey, do you work in esports? I'm going to make a bet that you have a degree not related in the field that you're in at all." And it went kind of viral, and it was just all over the place. Like there's no there I think they have sports programs now, but everyone in it now I don't was very everyone responding was just all over the board. It was really interesting.
right. Yeah. I was in the same boat where I was in college when I was kind of getting
hmm
into this. But I did manage to finish my degree and it was in media arts and animation, which
Okay.
has some
Yeah.
obviously I learned how to use like Adobe products, so it kind of
Just
helps.
helpful when making your
Yeah.
own content,
Yes, yeah,
having
media
those skills.
skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know if it's like 4 years worth of something, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit. But still, so you get picked up kind of like in the general story of esports is also, who you know. Right place, right time. Also
Yeah,
very popular saying.
it is very, very true. Yeah, I got really lucky that I already just knew those people, and I was exactly like you said. I was in the right place at the right time. Someone got hired by Blizzard. They had an opening. They needed someone to help out. I literally thought it was going to be a temporary thing, and then I just didn't stop. And so yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then you said that you provided them, when they're looking for someone for more on air talent, you provided them with
Mhm.
like a demo reel, a clip.
Yeah, so this was probably 3 or 4 years down the line. They were they were looking for someone to do interviews at their lands, and I heard about it, and they were kind of considering some other people, and I was like, "Hey, I feel like I could be really good at that." So I kind of just asked one of the product leads in AWC if I could like audition, I think is the word that I used. So I submitted like a fake like 30-second hit about like a made up scenario with like current teams, and then they had me kind of do a LAN actually just to see if I would be a good fit. And they liked me enough to keep going. So yeah.
That's good. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
don't That's a lot of faith in me, I feel like, because I had no prior experience, but, up until that point, like, I knew that I really loved esports and it was what I wanted to do, but I never felt like I was using my best like, I wasn't really contributing in a way that I feel like I could be doing a good job. Does that make sense? Like, I was working hard and I was doing a good job, but I just felt like it wasn't, like, my my niche
Mm.
before that, like, doing adminning and, like, the stats producing that I was doing. So, now that I'm doing this, like, being on camera is a lot more fun. I think I'm better at it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Finding something that you not only like love doing, but also feel that sense of pride and accomplishment because you think
Mhm.
you do a good job is super important.
Yeah,
And is
exactly.
it's actually funny that you kind of put it that way because it just makes you sound like it really fit into as a jigsaw puzzle and it kind of fit together. Whereas I feel like a lot of other people, they kind of come in like a lot of the stories are a bunch of nerds, passionate people being
Mhm.
like shoved on a camera and then kind of
Yeah.
like escalating from a point of like 500 viewers to 10,000, and they kind of get used to it over time. But,
Yeah.
for the most part, very few of them are like, yeah, this is what I wanted to do. This is like being here in this place makes me like, feel fulfilled. That's hard to say. Um, and that I was a shy person when I was growing up. I kind of had to adapt into it. I wasn't, if I had to take a giant leap, like I don't know if I would have
Mhm.
done it. But it sounds like I only took that giant leap. Like really, you kind of went from like no on air experience to like working for this humongous company.
Yeah.
And that it fit also perfectly in the way that you immediately got some satisfaction from it. Because I think what I'm trying to lead up to is that a lot of people will have like imposter syndrome, right? They'll just not really feel at place, and they'll look at all these
Uh-huh.
other beautiful people on camera and be like, oh, what am I
Mhm.
doing? Do you ever have that, or does it actually
Oh
just feel
god.
like a perfect thing?
No, like, all the time. Still, all the time. I don't think that'll ever go away. I think it's, like, a number of factors. It's, like, kinda what you said. Like, I feel like I stumbled into this job, and I'm very, very fortunate. Um, and I have, like, almost a little bit of guilt in that way as well because literally I mean, I had done, I think, like, literally one no, that was my first ever event on camera was a Blizzard event with, like, I don't know how many viewers, but many, many viewers. Um, and, uh and so there's that, whereas, like, I kinda started out, like, at a kind of a high level where a lot of people aspire to be, so I have, imposter syndrome in that way, and also just, like, there's always, like, doubting yourself of as, like, a host or a caster, thinking that you're just not good enough for your job, which I deal with a lot as well, so, yeah, definitely deal with imposter syndrome, for sure.
I was if you were someone who's gonna be like, I've never felt that way, I would have been like, are you lying?
Yeah.
Are you a narcissist? Like, Um, yeah, it still feels like really good when especially if you can kind of like reorient your mind to stay away from, especially like the outside expectations. Like, of
Mhm.
course, rising to the expectations of peers and the people who hired you is important.
Yeah.
But it's so tempting, especially after your first gig to go to Reddit, to go to Twitter, to go to YouTube.
Ugh,
Please never do
yeah.
that, especially YouTube. And be
Yeah.
like, do people like me or not?
Yeah.
And especially with all of their, opinions, it gets really easy to drive yourself down even after you thought you delivered. If you would just by yourself, you're like, I did an excellent job, A plus to me. You go to these spaces and you're like, did I? Did I though? Like, am I just actually terrible?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest parts about the job, I think, is, like, dealing with the fact that there are people that think you don't belong where you are and that you aren't good at your job, but you kinda just have to, like, accept that you can't change their opinion, so, yeah, that's part of it for sure.
And when jumped at this opportunity to do this, was that ever a thought in your mind? Was it kind of a horse blinders on, like, oh my god, I could do something I'm passionate about, or was there actually a lot of hesitation in going after that?
Um, there was hesitation, but I knew that if I acted on that hesitation, like, I could see this, like, amazing opportunity just pass me by, and I imagined, like, someone else in the sideline reporting role, like, that's what it started out as, was the interviewer sideline reporter, and I was like, "I do not want to sit like behind the scenes doing what I've been doing for 4 years and watch somebody else do this job that I didn't try and go for, that I didn't at least try to do. Um, so I kind of just like fully leapt into it. Uh, like basically up until the point that I was like on camera holding the microphone, like speaking live, I was like so scared. Like I'm sure you remember the first time you were on camera, like it's terrifying. Like I remember sitting in the green room being like, I could still tell them I can't do this. And I'm sure like my hand was shaking on camera. Like people probably saw that, but no, I'm glad that I didn't hesitate because I could have, but I didn't let myself. I kind of just forced myself to do it because I knew it would be worth it.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those also like kind of fortunate things if you have the ability to do that. Really, I'm not even sure how you would train yourself to do that, but to have a huge opportunity come up and actually be like, you know what, I'm doing it because
Mhm.
that's actually a big start for a lot of people. I remember one of the first things that I did. It wasn't even that big, to be honest. Looking back on it now, it was small potatoes. But
Mhm.
to me, who was doing nothing, it was huge. It was like a community event, and
Mhm.
like 3,000 people ended up watching. So it wasn't super small.
Yeah,
But I remember it being
sizable.
like, I don't know if I should apply to this. Like, I don't know if I'm good enough. There's so many other community casters who are so good. Like, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my dad who was like, you should just do it. And I forget exactly what he said, but something about the way he said it, I was just like, yeah, you know what? I F it, like
Yeah.
let's just I wasn't old enough to get drunk, but let's just type up the email, post the link, and then just send and
Oh
then run away
man,
from the computer.
how
One
old
of
were
those
you
types of
when you
things.
were did your first gig?
I was 22, I
Okay.
believe. So I was in the fourth year of college and I had just adopted a new kitten. I remember this very
Oh,
specifically.
cool. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, and I was, and that's actually a good point to bring up is that I was even older, I had gone through most of college, certainly already
Mhm.
past high school, and that's a lot of the time where people start getting interested in esports now. And it's like I can't imagine as a 16 or 17-year-old jumping at that chance. Like I was
Yeah.
so different when I was that age.
I don't think I would have at that
Yeah.
age.
Uh I don't mean to make this uncomfortable, but when did you get your first role? What age are you?
On camera,
Hmm.
I was 25, I think.
Oh, okay.
So I really haven't been doing that long, like only a year and a half have I been doing on camera stuff. Yeah. So
Okay. Wow.
so like
Yeah.
26, 25, somewhere in there. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to reveal your age. See, I
I
usually
don't
ask like
know.
without any concern, and then I realize I'm like, oh right, some people
I
don't like
mean,
talking about that.
whatever. And I'm kind of sad. I'm almost 30, which I don't. And this, you know, pandemic is taking away a year away from my 20s, which is upsetting, but it's fine.
Mm, yes, yes, I'm turning 30 in May, so
Ah,
very
yeah.
important. Last
That's
year of my 20s gone.
yeah. That sucks.
But anyways, but yeah, these chances like they come and there's always a little bit of luck and also just like the way you've been brought up that kind of comes into it.
Mhm.
If you're not
Yeah.
ready, it just is unfortunate because it is so much about timing in esports. So I
Mhm.
guess kind of like a PSA, like if you have ambitions of ever getting to a certain point, being on air talent, then you got to get ready like basically now. I would say like if you're
Mhm.
listening to this podcast, you're trying to cast, host whatever, like you better be ready right now to accept an offer.
Yeah.
If you can, of course. But a
Most
lot of people wouldn't
definitely.
be ready for that.
I don't know how I did it, but I'm proud of myself.
Yeah,
I
you should
wasn't
be.
ready. I probably wasn't. I mean, I'm sure I did. I reviewed the VODs afterwards with our producer, and actually did pretty good. Like, when you think of yourself, like if you think of a moment, you're like, man, I probably seemed so awkward on camera, and then you watch it again, and you're like, actually, that wasn't too bad. So I think I did. I think I did pretty good for my first event.
Nice. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So so this is a sideline reporting gig.
Hmm.
Is your first thing you
Hmm.
did. So did you get any preparation done? Did you watch any people to see what they were doing?
I did a lot. I did so much. I kind of like I had known the players pretty well up until that point, which I think is part of why they liked me for that role because I knew them pretty well because I'd been working in that program for several years at the time. But I just kind of did more research on them as like who they are as people and the usual like team background and past performances, that kind of stuff. That was really like honed in because up until that point, that's not really information that I needed to know by heart. And then most of it was a lot of like watching other people in the space and other on camera people and seeing like sort of how they acted on camera and the stuff that they did. So I watched a lot of like Frankie. I watched a lot of Jess Brohard. Watched a lot of, there was actually like some hockey girls that I watched. Lauren Gardner was an example. And then Golden Boy, stuff like that. So I did a lot of just reviewing other esports with people that have similar roles to what I was going to be doing, and just kind of taking tips from them. So most of that, yeah,
Those are good role models to have. Um,
definitely.
yeah, I could have. I think I could have told. Like, I could have figured out when you got into this based off of your role models.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of funny. I just, if you hadn't told me, I'd be like, "Oh, Frankie." Like, all right, she. I mean, she's kind of recent actually. Um, when you compare it to where I came in, which was 2010, and
Uh-huh.
I was mostly StarCraft people, but those are all
Hmm.
fabulous people to look up to, especially for their hosting technique as well.
Yeah.
I know Golden Boy does commentary, but um,
Mhm.
he's got that special talent, charisma.
Definitely. Yeah. And then Jess, like, huge shout out to her. Like, we were sharing a venue at the time between CDL and WoW at the old MLG place in Columbus, and she actually let me like shadow her for a day. I'd never met her, but we knew some similar people, and one of my friends that was the director for the WoW show at the time, like, reached out to her and was like, "Hey, we have this new girl that wants to do what you're doing. Would it be okay if she shadowed you for a day?" And like, she answered all of my questions. Like, while they were live, she was letting me ask just so many dumb questions, and she was super gracious. So I'm always going to be really thankful for her, because she's basically like my first mentor in the scene.
I didn't catch that, Jess.
Yeah, Jess Brohard.
Jess Brohard.
She does
Okay.
she's literally the sideline reporter for Call of Duty.
Yeah, I was gonna say it
So,
sounds very familiar. I think I
mhm.
recently started following her as I
Mhm.
looked into the Call of Duty scene because
She'd be a
it's
cool
kind of blown up.
person to talk to next if you need a
Yeah.
another person.
No, definitely. It's a goal of mine to contact everyone who's ever been on camera.
Oh, cool.
Might be a little overzealous, um
Hey.
but yeah, that's awesome then. So you had this
Mhm.
mentor who had a couple of years of experience at least helping
Mhm.
you out and very directly as well,
Yeah.
which 28 episodes in, I think that's the first time I've heard that.
Oh
So
my god. I mean, she took me on stage like while they were live to see how she like talked to the players before she grabbed them for interviews, and like I got to see her entire process. It was so valuable.
wow, that is excellent. So,
Yeah.
what were some of the things like what's the biggest takeaways from that experience that you still think about today?
Um a lot of it was how I was really curious of like how she came up with her questions, because she had to do it a lot on the fly, and how she like got, because part of her job and my job, they were kind of similar. They're pretty much the same. Was like there was an interview segment after every series, and then there was between each series there was like a 30-second hit piece where you kind of talked about like what was going on behind the scenes with the players specifically. So like the information gathering part of that was something that I was really curious about, and just being able to sort of follow her around as she was talking to the players and gathering information about what was going through their head and stuff, and like the type of questions she was asking to get those questions out, because sometimes players can be very focused and like some shy and not very talkative sometimes. So that was, I think, the biggest learning lesson I had on that day.
How to kind of draw out the
Draw out the
answers.
information, yeah, to make questions and little hit pieces. So yeah.
Mhm. Hit pieces is kind of a interesting term. For the viewers, can you
Hmm.
explain what a hit piece is?
So basically I would be put on stage, and it would be sometimes before a series, sometimes in the middle of a series. So in World of Warcraft, it's like best of 5. I'm not sure what it is for COD. I think it also might be best of 5. So like they just one team had just won a game, and the casters on the desk would kind of analyze it a little bit and be like, "Man, I wonder what's going on through this player's head." And then they'd be like, "Whoa, we've got Eiya on the stage to talk about it." And then they'd send it to me on the stage, and I would talk for like 30 seconds. I would talk about the information that I know, because I had just talked to the players, whereas the casters are kind of stuck on the desk all day, so all they can really do is analyze. Um, talk in front of the camera with a microphone just about what I had learned about what's going on through the players' heads, and then I would just throw it back to the desk. And we'd call it just like a hit piece.
It's still like a fascinating term just because it sounds like it's
Yeah.
it sounds like a media term where you're trying to put like a
Yeah.
hit out on someone, which is usually a
Yeah.
bad thing.
I don't know where that came from. I don't know if that's like a universal term or just something that was in the MLG world, or if I'm just making it up in my head and I think that's what it's called.
You know what? It could be either of those
Yeah.
options, all of them. I don't know. There's so many things actually that we've taken from TV industry, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
movie TV industry,
Yeah,
that it kind of starts to get blurred.
definitely.
I talked with a makeup artist who she actually did like TV and movies before she got into esports, and she was like
Ooh.
saying how she was there even when 2011, 12, or whatever, and she had to be the one to like use the industry terms like green room, for instance, which
Mm,
I think now like hundreds of thousands of more people know because esports people use them now. Use the
okay,
term.
that's funny. That makes sense though, that like in the beginning we wouldn't know what to call it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still don't actually. I don't really know why it's called a green room, if I'm being honest.
I don't. I wish I could tell you.
Okay,
I don't
yeah,
know either.
that's what it's called. Just the place
Yeah.
that everyone hangs out in behind the production.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so I mean, that was an amazing experience, and
Mhm.
it sounds like you were in that really, and from my perspective, my personal opinion is kind of a terrifying role. And this is going to be something that you might disagree with, but as a commentator, you kind of have like a lot of space, even in the most action-packed esports, like Overwatch or something. You still have a decent amount of space to kind of correct mistakes or
Mhm.
be like, oh, that's why that did that thing, and you don't stutter over your words. If you do, you can fix it. When you're forced to do like these hit pieces, you say, or even just a general hosting role, there's so much limited time that usually you got to
Yeah.
be like bang on from beginning to end, and then quickly disappear.
Mhm.
uh if you agree that's stressful, then great. But what did you adapt easily to this time restriction, or is this something that you feel like you struggle with and have to prepare for, is kind of being snappy?
I struggled a lot for sure. I think the interviews were easier because it wasn't just me up on the stage. I got to sort of play off of what they were saying, and I just, I was able to have a card, and it was just three. It was always three questions, and so um, the hit pieces were definitely harder, especially because it was like 30 seconds of me talking, and as someone that was very new at it, I wasn't quite good at like the biggest thing I had to learn was how to, sort of memorize what I was gonna say while also not being like a robot. Um, which I think I got pretty good at like the second or third time that I did it. But I would definitely agree. Like it's a hard role. And for compared to the casters and the hosts for those shows that I did as a sideline reporter, like I was only on a very small portion of the time, but like that when I wasn't on, I was always like chasing the players around, trying to get information, writing interview questions because it's like there's a running joke in esports that like one of the most overused esports questions is like, "You just won this cup. How do you feel?" or whatever. So I was trying to stay away from that, and yeah, it's a lot. So yeah, terrifying is a good word.
Yeah. And I gotta imagine, since you're running around, kind of like you're it's like almost like being on call, very like
Yep.
um
Mhm.
busy on call, where it's
Mhm.
just like maybe I can take a break. No, go get questions now because we
Yeah.
might use you.
Didn't
Um
eat for the 2 days. Yeah.
do you so is this I mean, is this a job that's because full disclosure here, like we don't have sideline reporters, unfortunately, in
Mhm.
StarCraft. I don't think there was ever really a culture around it so much. We had a couple of funny instances of attempts, but then for some reason it just pretty much got cut for the last like I
Oh,
think it's gonna be at least 6 years since we really had any of that.
yeah.
So, anyways, so is this a job that is typically just done by one person the entire day?
From what I can tell, yeah. Cuz like you said, I don't think that that exact role is I mean, cuz Jess is the only one that did also the interviews and also the like on stage pieces. So so yeah, I guess so cuz like now that I think about it, like people that do just interviews like Frankie just does the interviews, right? I think um and then I'm trying to think of like other esports where they have just one person doing interviews, but I can't imagine someone like running off the desk and like going and grabbing someone. I guess that does happen. So I think so. From my
Yeah.
perspective, it seems like it, but I could be totally wrong. I think it's probably a mix of both.
Mm. I think it is. There are so many like I mean, you got to consider that 7 8 years ago it was actually a struggle to convince people to hire more than two commentators.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I remember a couple of hosts being like, why don't we have more than one host for 10-hour days? And
Yeah.
that still hasn't changed for too many. So I think CSGO kind of does a good job of having more hosts,
Mhm.
but even then, maybe two, definitely not more. So yeah, there's still a lot of, very active, very tiring roles in esports that just are seen as like,
Yeah.
suck it up and do it.
Mhm.
And because, especially because we tend to also start to overvalue, well, not overvalue, it's easier to value on air time to kind of equate to your worth. These
Mhm.
interviewers or these silent reporters are kind of like getting the short end of the stick, or it's just like, well, what else are you
Yeah.
doing outside of those 3 minutes?
Yeah. Well, I think hosts as well, because now I've moved on to hosting. Like there aren't any lands, so I'm fortunate enough that I can host now. And it's the same thing. I host all day for like 10-hour show days, and then there's only three commentators for my show as well. So it's kind of the same thing, and a lot of the sort of hate that I get from the community is like, oh, why is this girl here? All she does is ask questions and announce the teams. And I'm kind of like, well, yeah, that's
Yep.
kind of my job. But they don't know that, there's a producer in your ear all day kind of telling you a lot of other things, and there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. So yeah, I think especially from someone that doesn't have a good understanding of production, yeah, that's what you would equate to your worth as a as a as an on-air talent, is how much you're talking. But there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, hosting is more difficult. In some ways, not as much, but
Mhm.
it's still nonetheless a difficult job that should be seen more akin to what the casters are doing.
Mhm.
So, before we dive into the analysis questions of hosting, so
Sure.
when did you make that jump into hosting?
This year, actually, well, I guess 2020. I had done some very small tournaments, like for GCT TV. I kind of started hosting their tournaments. Some of them, I think, only did like two or three. And then I did like some smaller, like some other people that were doing community tournaments in the World of Warcraft scene. I helped them out as well. And then the first like big event that I ever did, which was I think one that you mentioned that you watched, was one of the Race to World firsts. Um, with Complexity, they asked me to host their event, which is like was a huge deal to me. I was so excited when they reached out. Um, so that was the first like big event that I ever got to host, and then after that, uh, I was given the opportunity to host all the AWC shows. So for World of Warcraft, been which has been really really cool. Kind of unfortunate because I've never hosted inside like for the AWC inside an actual studio. It's all been at home because of COVID, but yeah,
Are
so
you,
not long.
is that something that you are looking forward to? Is it something that you've really enjoyed doing? This is it, and now you want to work all the hosting jobs for World of
Ah,
Warcraft esports?
I like both. I like both roles. I have so much more experience now on camera, and I think that if I were ever to go back to the sideline reporter role, I think I would do a much better job because I'm like way more comfortable in front of the camera now. Um, but yeah, there's I think I'm good. I like hosting. I like hosting. I like both. I don't know. It's a hard question because I like both. But I can't do both at a LAN. Like that would be really hard. I'd have to like run from the run from the desk to the stage.
Yeah,
So
that'd be pretty hard.
yeah.
And so is this sounds like desk hosting then? Have
Mhm.
you ever done the stage hosting portion?
No, there are not. We don't really have stage hosts in WoW. It's been a long time since we've had that role. Um, so I've never done that. I would be super down. I don't know how to do it, but I'm sure I could. But yeah, desk hosting is what I've been doing. So,
uh, that's so funny. So StarCraft didn't have silent reporters for the last
yeah.
like 7 years, and WoW's gotten rid of their stage hosts.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they kind of could do some of the same things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I mean, yeah, I think stage hosting is a completely different beast. I haven't done it
Mhm.
yet. I've done everything else, I guess, that there is to do in esports, but
Okay.
stage hosting is something that I would still love to try.
Yeah.
See Smix do it. every time we're
Mhm.
at an event, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's one of the other people that I was studying up on, Smix. Yeah,
yeah, she's great, and
he is good.
I'm like, man, maybe I could do that. And then,
I
yeah,
think
as you
so.
were saying, like, watching Golden Boy, right?
Mhm.
To get this like fabulous presence would
I
be so cool.
that's like the role though. You got to be like the hype man. I
Hmm.
don't know if my personality is big enough for that. Well, I don't know. It's a lot of pressure.
I mean, honestly, that's actually a good point. Something I've talked about a lot with my guests is that at some point there seems to almost be like it's already a soft skill what we do. It's already something that's like totally subjective. Everyone has an opinion on it.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, there's also these like kind of magical elements and qualities to certain people in the industry, and it just feels like they're larger than life. That they have
Yeah,
something about them, and it's even hard to really not just place what it is, but also like how to do it. Like
yeah,
how do you be funny is a question that no one can genuinely answer with actual, step by step process. So,
yeah.
but that feeling of just like, can I be the hype man? Can I be that grand? Can my charisma fill
Mhm.
the room, which is what they're supposed to do? You do that to a smaller degree, I would say, for sure. Still, as desk hosting,
Mhm.
is that
Yeah.
something that you've struggled with going into this role?
Yeah, yeah. The first few times I hosted, I desk hosted, I was definitely very nervous. It was more of me in my head being like, "Oh my god, what do I ask them next?" and less of me like showing who I am as a person and trying to be charismatic and not like being so stiff. Um, and it starts to click eventually. You start to kind of like think less about like, oh god, like what am I going to say next, and more of like just sort of easing into that role and showing more of like your personality and like leaning into being a little bit cringy and funny. And so yeah, that's it's a learning curve for sure when you first start hosting. Is like is focusing less on what you're saying and just kind of going with the flow of things. So
I assume you know who Colaris is?
Laris.
He does PUBG and StarCraft, and he's in a couple other events
I think
as a host.
so. Sounds familiar.
Well,
I probably know
so
what he looks like.
yeah, well, overall it doesn't really matter, but the
Okay.
point is he's a very good host, and
Mhm.
he's definitely got the whole like kind of cringy for the sake of the broadcast thing
Yeah.
down, like just being kind of like almost like a dad joker type of thing.
Yeah.
And I made a brilliant joke that my co-caster didn't get at first, which ruined it. But I was like, a lot about being, an esports commentator, because I was casting at the time, is being able to look like a fool in front of a large audience. And the
Yep.
best ones can look the foolish and still be great. And that's why
Yeah.
Polaris is the greatest commentator.
Okay.
And then my co-caster was like, what? And I was like, what? Come on, man. Um, so that was perfect because I looked foolish because no one
Yeah.
laughed at my joke.
That's the worst is when you make a joke and like it just doesn't your co-casters are just like they just
Yeah.
they're doing like the esports nod like yeah like can you like
Esports.
at least pretend like I'm funny?
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, he was like he didn't hear it or something. He talked to me later and he was like, actually, when I understood it, it was funny. It was amazing. I just didn't hear it.
Oh my god, that's
Um
funny.
but anyways, yeah, a lot of the process is actually just doing it and
Mhm.
trying to get comfortable with it. There really is no alternative to just doing something, which is kind of cruel in the world of esports, on
Yeah.
air gigs, because you actually brought up something I thought was a little bit interesting, where I was like, how'd you get into hosting? And you were bringing up some of the smaller events, and I was like, smaller events need hosts. Like, I've actually not really heard so much of that, because I've also wondered, like, I did a little bit of desk hosting with StarCraft last year, and I'd love to do more,
Mhm.
but I don't know how to branch out anywhere else, because the last thing that people really think of, like, first you think of like casters, well, production, then casters, then maybe observers is like, I think,
Mhm.
kind of the list, and very rarely desk hosting. So is this
Huh,
different in World of Warcraft? Is the desk host seen as
maybe.
super crucial?
I didn't
Maybe?
realize that was uncommon. I've done are there a number of people like what's the community like tournament scene like in StarCraft? Is it Are there a lot of people doing it or?
Yeah, tons.
Uh-huh.
There's events happening every day, so many every day as well.
But no
Like
hosts?
no, actually, you know the base rate TV, like we were
Yeah.
talking about that earlier. That was Rifkin and I for 5-ish years or whatever, and
Mhm.
we never were tempted to get a desk host on any of our
Hmm.
community events, even when it was like a big one, 10,000 viewers,
Yeah.
whatever. Now we have a
Wow.
guy named Wardy who does it all by himself, actually, these big events, solo casting. And yeah,
Oh
he's also
goodness.
never been tempted to get a desk host. So yeah, it just sounds like it's maybe a very
Me?
different community.
It might be. I've hosted WoW tournaments that have like 100 viewers.
Wow.
I've at that scale, and then I've also like done small Halo tournaments. I've done smaller like Overwatch tournaments. So I don't know. I never considered because I do know that it's like fairly common as well for um people to just cast with themselves. If it's just like a small tournament and it works fine. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's like a WoW specific thing because I get a lot of emails too about other people wanting me to host their small tournament, but I just don't have the time to do all of them. So
Dude, I mean that's awesome though. I
mhm.
mean, I'd rather have that than the alternative, which is
Yeah.
no one really looking for hosts.
Mhm.
Are these emails just kind of seemingly out of the blue? Have you done anything to market yourself as a variety desk host?
I haven't. No, I don't even have a reel, which is I don't know. Like, do you have a reel?
Not many people do, actually, I would say.
Okay, I'm glad because I still feel kind of new. Like I don't have an agent or anything. Like I'm getting there, but yeah, I'm like, am I even doing this right? I don't have like the only thing that I have is my business email on my Twitter profile, and that's how I usually get contacted by these people. But yeah, I don't have a reel. I don't really like actively reach out to people to host their events. They just kind of come to me. So yeah,
It's a good place to be.
definitely, yeah.
Uh, I think I mean I would say that maybe like one or two people on my show have had them, but
Hmm.
it's not really a thing in StarCraft. And to be
Okay.
fair, like 12 people have been StarCraft people, and but even in other stuff, like I haven't really heard of it, right? Like
Hmm.
generally the most I've heard is like maybe someone asks and they are like, well, here's a link to a thing I did, and
Yeah,
that's okay enough.
I've done that also.
Yeah.
Yeah, where someone wants to just like get a feel for my style, and then I'll send them like a clip. But yeah, I don't think I'd want to make one either. Like I'd have to sift through
Yeah.
watching myself, which I hate to do. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no one likes that. I just
Ugh.
I've thought about making one just to like just in cases, right? Even though I'd never really heard a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to have, especially if you're ever going to be in a position in your, esports life where you are trying to branch out. I'm sure it doesn't
Hmm.
hurt.
Yeah.
But every time I'm just like, I'd hire someone and I'd give them things that I might have done a good job in and let them decide to like put it
that's
in or not.
that's wise.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind if I ever make one. Just pay someone else to just sift through that footage.
Yeah, exactly. Like people will be like, "You don't have to hire one." It doesn't have to be fancy. And I'm like, "Oh, it's not fancy. It's just so I don't have to watch myself,
Yeah.
judge myself."
Yeah.
But yeah, on that topic,
Hmm.
watching yourself is still a very important tool in giving feedback to yourself. So,
Yeah.
is this something that you get over occasionally, and you do watch your own vods?
Yeah. Yeah, I try to. I watch a little bit after every weekend. Especially if I feel like I had a particularly good weekend, I want to kind of see if that like translated well on screen as it did in my head. But yeah, I really really hate to do it. It's really awkward. But it's like you said, it's an important thing to do if you want to improve as a on talent commentator. So on camera talent. Wow. On camera talent. I was gonna say on camera talentator after I corrected myself.
Talentator.
Yeah,
Nice.
talentator. But yeah, on camera talent. Yeah, important.
Yeah. Part of that's being on camera and not looking like you're Jack Donaghy holding like two
Yeah.
mugs and 30 Rock.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so
Because
which
sometimes you'll do something and you like think that it's interesting how in your head it feels a lot different than it translates on screen. So it's definitely eye opening to watch it.
mhm. That's I think the most important thing actually. Like
Hmm.
my personal take on like getting myself like, criticizing myself is that I don't do it if I had a bad day because I already am telling myself what I already know I did wrong, right? And like
Uh-huh.
watching it's not going to help. But I think actually watching some good days and being sure that it was as good as you thought is actually one of the best things to do.
Yeah.
And then the real thing that you're generally looking at is like, are you communicating what you thought you were communicating? I think
Yeah.
is one thing that is super beneficial for looking at your own VODs because it's also like it's other people looking at your VODs will just kind of be like, "You said this, you meant this," and you'd be like, "Oh wait, no, I didn't."
Mhm.
And that's not even what they're going to bring up, right? So it's kind of like the baseline thing I would say for self criticize. I keep saying criticizing, self criticism. There we go.
Yeah.
Is making sure that you're communicating the right thing, and that also goes to body language, which I think has been a tough thing for a lot of people when they come into esports, but especially when you come into the COVID year and you're all
Yeah.
online and you're just looking at a camera and like not even your co-commentators. Very, very odd feeling. Do
Mm.
you have any particular tips that you would like to share about looking okay on camera?
Um, for working at home or for just in general?
In general.
Okay, well, one of the ones that I noticed when we started hosting from home is like, because I can't look at an audience or at a stage or at my fellow casters, I would tend to just like space out, like staring into my camera, which is like not okay. It was very creepy. But yeah, I think even if you're not a natural hand talker, starting trying to work this into the way that you talk is always good. It's not something that I naturally do, but I do it now when I'm hosting because I just think it makes you more animated and you know facial um what's the word I'm trying to think of when you're like moving your face, you know what I mean? Facial
Being
expressions.
emotive.
Yeah,
Okay, facial
that
expressions. There you
emotive
go.
too. Yeah, I think is good. Definitely making eye contact, but not too much eye contact with the camera. Um, yeah. Is that good?
Yeah, it's whatever has been helpful to you is forever going to be
Mhm.
helpful to someone else out there, right?
Yeah. The biggest one were for me was the this and not being like, but I think that's everyone is, when you first start it's a lot of like you're very very stiff. But
Hmm.
I think once you get more into it, you kind of relax and look more natural.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to kind of freeze up on camera, especially when you're
Yeah.
literally contained in a box.
Yep.
For like offline stuff, there's a little more flexibility with the wide shots they give you.
Mhm.
But in a lot of the online stuff, it's like, this is your box. Don't leave your box. And you're like,
Yeah.
not even a little bit. And they're like, not even a little.
Yeah. One of the things I had to do as a sideline reporter was like if I was talking about two teams as once, they would kind of put me in front of the stage in front of the two teams and I would have to like I'd have a mark on the floor.
Mm.
You can't look at it, while you're talking. But I'd be sitting here talking and be like, hey, team A, blah 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 blah. But then when I switched over to the next team, I would have to like walk over there and the camera would follow me and that was a hard one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to remember what you're saying.
Yeah, to remember you're blocking as well as trying to
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
casual and be yeah, energetic and whatnot. And one of
Uh-huh.
the first things I remember, we got to do like a guest cast for a dream hack like years ago. So that was like technically like my first like offline experience. But
Mhm.
I remember I'd always watch this one commentator and he would always like look down at his hands. And it was kind of he
Mhm.
kind of made like a natural movement actually, because he had his hands kind of like this on the desk
Mhm.
and he kind of like do this with his hands and just kind of look down. And it was actually kind of natural, but I always like thought like that's an interesting like tick almost. Like what is that? And I realized when we did the offline thing that there's a piece of tape right where his
Huh.
navel is, and that he was making sure that he was still in the camera frame properly.
Oh,
And I was
that's
like, oh, that's funny.
that's kind of cute. I don't know. That's oh.
I know, right?
He's like, I'm still here, right?
Yeah,
I'm still
exactly.
good. That's funny.
Thankfully, it was never like that obvious,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I was fascinated by that. But
Huh.
still, like the idea is that like especially for like the DreamHack production that we do right now, it's like the box is like this for me.
Oh wow.
I'm like don't move like this.
Oh, I've seen that when they
Yeah,
kind of make it really tall and narrow for the at home stuff. Yeah, I haven't done one like that, but I imagine like you just moved a little bit, you'd be
yes,
like half your face. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. That's really annoying. I also don't like the aesthetics of it, to be honest. I kind
Yeah.
of prefer like just like regular widescreen box. I'm fine with that. So
I I Okay, so I did one show where they would do that every once in a while, and I felt the same way. But I don't know if it was because I actually didn't like the way it looked, or I just felt like my face was like blown up, and I was uncomfortable with
Yeah.
it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. There's a little bit of A, a little bit of B, honestly.
I was just like, whoa, that's a lot
Yeah.
of my face.
Especially when like the internet across, countries is like dropping quality and you're like getting fuzzier the
Hmm.
closer up you are.
Yep.
All things that they deal with when you're at home, less
Yeah.
offline. But yeah, offline I think it's just going to be a lot more fun because I mean it's so weird that you're only doing so far hosting for online,
Yeah.
but as soon as you
Yeah.
get offline, you can actually like look at your guests and be like,
Hmm.
"What do you think?" As opposed to the subtle, "James, what do you think?"
It's yeah. Yeah. I've done it one time, but it wasn't really desk hosting. It was the
Uh,
race toward first. It was in person last year. Um, which is, that's a lot less like just asking people questions and analyzing gameplay just because of the format of the game. But yeah, I'm glad though that I got to start learning hosting from home because I feel like it's almost less of a steep transition. Kind of been, you know what I mean? Like I'm at
oh
my
yeah,
house and I can look up any information that I want and it feels less intimidating, but yeah, I'm definitely excited to get into an actual studio again.
I think there's also a little bit of like people are giving more allowances for the online thing, so
Hmm.
it is actually just generally less pressure. I'm totally with you. It's something I'm glad I would do if I did then get an offline gig hosting. I'd feel so much more confident than if I had just been thrust into that spot.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um. So before I go too far more into this, so did you have any interest in the actual commentary of any games?
Um, so I honestly don't yes, I would like to do it. I just don't know. Excuse me, we're recording a
Cat attack.
podcast. He's trying to get into the blinds, my cat. The thing. Oh, so yeah, like I would like to, but I really enjoy I really do enjoy hosting. I feel like very fulfilled when I do it and it seems very hard. And I'm not like an ex-pro or anything like that. My skill level like in World of Warcraft specifically, I don't think is good enough for me to be an effective commentator. So so yes and no. Like I would like to do it, but I'm I'm enjoying my time hosting in the meantime. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Just wanted to throw it out there. I know some
Yeah.
people are interested in crossing over. I do
Mhm.
think there's a lot more excuse me, crossover between from going from a commentator to a host
Yeah.
or anything else. I think that's certainly more common, but I I want did machine go the other way around? Darn him. One day I'll
David?
have to interview that guy.
Or
Like machine like
oh,
CS:GO
oh, okay. Sorry. I thought
machine.
you were talking
Yeah.
about D Machine from GCT TV, and then I was like, wait, you don't. Okay, never mind.
No, yeah, that was confusing. My bad. And when you're talking about Jess, I thought you were talking about Jess Goat. So there's just like,
Oh yeah. Oh, I love her too, though. She's also great. Yeah.
yeah, I'm hoping to get her on actually very soon. So
Oh, okay. I'll definitely listen to that.
yeah. But so anyways, the yeah, there's a little, I think a little more of the expectation of a host to kind of stay in their lane, if you will. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little harsh though because I do think that there's a lot of there's a lot of crossover. Like, I mean, you can kind of go from like host to like play by play, for instance.
Mhm.
And I think that would actually be some very transferable skills as well as vice versa.
Mhm.
Where actually, if you're an analyst, then sometimes going into another role is a bit more difficult. It has its transferable skills as well, but just not quite the same. But yeah, I always wonder if there's people out there who go into hosting and then get into commentary because it does seem a little bit
Yeah.
rare.
I wonder too. I mean, maybe someday. I have like a few of the small tournaments that I do, the like the community run ones. They always ask me. They're like, "Do you want to commentate this time? You could cast if you want to." I'm like, "Thank you for having faith in me, but that would be a disaster."
That's
I
still
will
so
just
cool that they're
what?
asking you, that they're
I
offering
know.
it.
I It always surprises me. I'm like, "Do you want me to ruin your event? Because it would be atrocious."
Nah. I guess there is a little bit of a different like rhythm to it, but
Yeah.
it's really not too bad, especially because I feel like how much do you think that you've built up a relationship with these commentators, right? And your
Hmm.
desk guests is something that also would help move into it. So
Mhm.
There's definitely ways to get into it if you would like, but if not, then hosting is a world that is there's a lot to explore, there's a lot to improve on. What do you
True.
find yourself trying to improve on usually? I guess I'm kind of asking like what do you think your weaknesses are?
So lately specifically, I definitely have been trying to insert more of my opinions on things, rather than relying on the casters quite as much. Like I feel like I could definitely insert, not that I'm an expert on the game and people want to hear my like in-depth analysis, but I'm trying to like very like specifically this past weekend is something that I tried to do, and I have a long way to go for sure, but I think I could probably insert more of my opinion on like gameplay related things, just like here and there, um, to make sort of more of an impact in that way. Um, and then that yeah, that's the big one I'm doing right now, I think.
Getting a little bit more of the I guess what's to say like the content in there, not just being the guider, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah, and I definitely think that's like a fine line with the host. Like I don't want to take up more, we have the commentators there for a reason, but I think like I want to become less of a question machine and more of a like be a part of the conversation. And because I have all these like like fun facts about players because I've known them for a while, and I think like I'm at a place now where I can be like more conversational rather than just prompting questions constantly. So a good mix of it I feel like is what makes an interesting host, and I'm getting there because like we've already said, I'm still pretty new to this. So yeah, so that's been something I've been like reflecting on lately with how I've been hosting.
Do you think that the World of Warcraft community is very receptive to that kind of community feel, or are they looking for a very streamlined professional broadcast?
Mm, I think they like the way it is right now, where it's kind of a good mix of both. Like I think I think like the AWC is like a very very well run production, and it's a high production value. But like you can also tell that like we're on the desk, like uh we're very personable, especially the three casters that I work with. Like they're kind of legends in the scene. People love them. Um, so I think it's a little bit of a mix of both. I think they definitely like the community feel of it. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably a little bit more like StarCraft, I would imagine. I mean, if I had to give two games, I guess I'd be like, are you Overwatch in its inaugural year when they were basically like an NFL copy, or are you
Right.
like a fighting game tournament where like they're
Okay.
in the crowd?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, I think it's like a healthy balance, like right there in the middle with AWC specifically. Because we meme around a lot too. Like there's a lot of joke. Like one time, like, do you know who Rich Campbell is?
No,
By any
no.
chance? He was like the host before me for this show, and he's like adored in the WoW community. And he's moved on to like starting in Oregon, doing more content stuff. And I like dressed up as him for like I had a bald cap. Like there's a lot of and like it's a lot of that, but it's also like we know when the stakes are high, and when to also like be very professional. So I feel like we do a really good job of balancing that. So and I hope and it seems like the WoW community likes like that. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask, and you as a host, like, how do you kind of keep your finger on the pulse? Do you try to interact with the community still, or are you pretty hands off? Do you just usually talk to your peers for feedback?
I definitely don't take feedback from the community. Because if it would yeah the but I feel like I am very involved in the community. I mean, even before I started appearing on camera, a lot of people just knew who I was. I had been around for so long. Do you mean like on Twitter or like during the show interacting with
Oh well, if you did it during the show, I'd applaud you. But
people?
I just mean like are you kind of in the trenches a little bit more, like reading
Mhm.
Reddit or Twitter and seeing like people be like, I
Okay,
loved that segment, or I
yeah.
hate the way that they're developing these, something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I don't really go too much into Reddit. People are pretty active on there, but not so much about. I don't see a lot of comments on the show. I think where the most feedback I see is on Twitter, and I'm definitely like very very active in 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 the community Twitter. I respond to people all the time. I like, during breaks sometimes I'll come in on chat and like tell everybody hello. So yeah, I would say that I'm pretty like on the same level as the community. I'm not like some untouchable like, host or something that no one ever hears from. So
Yeah. I mean, there's like definitely two schools of thought, I suppose, on it. The one that I'm also like usually someone who goes in a chat and says hello, like obviously not when I'm casting, but
mhm.
if I'm on break or something. And I do read like a lot of the social media just to kind of have a semblance of where I'm at and what the community desires, which by the way, is sometimes actually impossible to
Oh
figure
yeah.
out. One
Yeah.
day they're all about like be more analytical, be more dry. Next day they're like, we need memes, 100% memes. And you're like, all right, okay. So of course it's very difficult to do, but then there are definitely people who are like, no, don't go there at all. Just
Mhm.
work with your producers and work with your co-casters, and whatever you think is the best product is what you should be striving toward. And I feel like that can have its downfalls. If it works for everyone, great. But if it doesn't, then that's a bit questionable because there is one of these things that we talk about amongst people in the industry where it's like the community oftentimes sometimes doesn't know what it wants, and
Mhm.
oftentimes most of the time has no idea what the sponsors or the organization wants,
Yeah.
right? And in some ways the on-air talent is trying to kind of bridge the two. They kind of have to
Absolutely.
sometimes be like, hey, I don't think the community would like that. Or if the community doesn't like it, be like, hey, this is the reason, and this is why it is necessary, kind of like that.
Mhm.
So that's why I asked the question,
Gotcha.
because I don't know anything about WoW community, so I don't know where they're at.
Yeah. So, I think like especially with our casters for AWC, like they're still playing with the players alongside them in arena, like in their free time, and they like, stream, and I think they're even more so than me is that bridge between the community and Blizzard or whoever you want to call them. So yeah, I agree with that for sure. Um, because it's hard. It's hard, right? To because sometimes you'll see feedback from the community, and they're like, "What? What do you? That's we can't do that. Like that wouldn't work at all." And then, but then every once in a while, you get a lot of like good feedback as like they liked a certain bit that we did, or we didn't get quite the response on one thing that we thought we may have. So yeah, I think it's important to pay attention to that, to what the community is saying, um, and take it with a grain of salt sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
uh this might be getting into maybe some testy territory, I don't know, again,
Mhm.
but like you are part of the Blizzard family of esports.
Yep.
What is Blizzard's relationship with its esport for WoW? Are they very hands off? Are they breathing down your necks? Something in between?
I think split. It's kind of there's like multiple levels. The the it's a very small family, the WoW esports family in Blizzard, and I feel like they're very involved. They're very active on social media. They're very active in the Warcraft chat, and I know that they're always, regardless of what the community may think, I know that they are always listening and they are always watching for feedback from the community, whether or not they're able to implement that. Um, but then it seems like the the problem with WoW specifically is that it's so fragmented, the different like communities and niches in the game. You can be a raider, you can be a PvPer, you can do just dungeons, you can just pet collect, you can just transmog collect, you can be just a leveler. Um, and I think like World of Warcraft as a whole sometimes has a problem with like, and it's not like it's their fault of like pleasing all of those communities. Um, and being like communicative to all of those communities as well, because of like how fragmented World of Warcraft is. So like specifically WoW esports, I would say is like very involved in the community, but at a larger scale, I'm sure if you asked the World of Warcraft community, they would say that not so much. But I have seen them kind of change, like with this expansion specifically with Shadowlands, kind of change in that direction of like reaching out more to the community and trying to be more transparent with, game changes or like decisions behind game changes, and stuff like that. So
It's a tough question and
yeah.
doesn't have really a good answer. I think because as you said, it is so fragmented. There's so many different parts to World of Warcraft.
Hmm.
But it is in that very interesting position where everyone knows World of Warcraft, but then compared to how many people know it and play it and do things with it, the esport is not thought about as often and yet is still very stable, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. So for the rest of the East, the Blizzard children, StarCraft is forgotten, and Brood War is as well, and then Overwatch apparently is now angry because Overwatch 2 gets all the credit. I don't understand what's happening. Yeah, I don't get it
Hmm.
either. And then Lookout doesn't have any esports. Hearthstone got shafted by Blizzard actually as well, so they're also kind of joining the Forgotten Children's Club.
Oh, what happened with Hearthstone?
So they got brought over to to YouTube with the Blizzard YouTube merger, which was
Hmm.
for a lot of Overwatch League. We avoided it, StarCraft avoided it, but
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Interesting.
we had created a deal with sorry,
You can
Blizzard
say
and
we.
ESL made a deal for
Okay.
3 years to do 3 years of a circuit on ESL with ESL, and then thus it had to be on Twitch.
Okay.
So, anyways, but Hearthstone went with Overwatch League, and where Overwatch League got a bunch of boosts, right? They realized it was going to be difficult to transfer their um, crowd from Twitch to YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, they did a lot of work to try and make sure it didn't lose its crowd, and for the most part, they were successful. It's kept around the same numbers. Hearthstone did not. Hearthstone was brought
Okay.
along like they forgot, the child was in the car, and then they got there and they were like, "What? Oh shit, you're here."
Oh no.
So and this is really sad stuff, right? But
Hmm.
I think their world finals last year, there someone made a post and then people picked up on it. They had something like a tenth of their viewership, like insanely different.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's really
there's the
sad.
the simplistic overview. I'm not a part of the community, so maybe I got some things wrong, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
pretty much what happened. Anyways, so what I was getting to is that WoW seems to be kind of in this weird spot where it seems like it could be a content machine. It feels like it could be
Mm,
one of those ideal situations where the esport can be something that's advertising for the game itself, right? You can advertise the skins and more
yeah.
skins, basically. So
Yeah.
you advertise. And yet it doesn't really feel that way. It feels like, there's World of Warcraft and then there's World of Warcraft esports. So I was wondering if you guys had any identity problems or if you had uh, any animosity towards Blizzard, which of course you don't have to get into if you don't want, or anything like that, because yeah, it just seems like such an interesting portion of Blizzard that is forgotten about because it's so stable. It's just it's there and it's doing its thing, and then
Hmm.
that's great, but no one seems to really. There's no drama, which is a good thing. um, so yeah, that's why I ask because again, it's so different from talking from the guys on Hearthstone and Overwatch and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we do struggle with that. Like if you looked at the actual numbers of like the people that play World of Warcraft and then the people that play Arena, like the program that I'm in is like so it's got to be like such a small percentage. So yeah, just kind of circling back around like it I think that's like a unique and amazing part of World of Warcraft, but also can be sometimes its downfall is that there is that like sort of disconnect between the rest of the game and arena. Yeah, lately there's actually been like a huge push for solo queue right now with because our other program that we do is MDI, which is like competitive dungeon running. It's like speed running kind of. So people are trying to get like solo queue for those two modes so that you can just like queue. 'Cause right now you have to like form your group manually, then queue up. So it's kind of it's not like Overwatch where you can just sign up and you have a
Right.
team to push rating with. And I think that would be pretty good for the health of the esports community for both MDI and AWC. But yeah, it's unique to World of Warcraft for sure, and it can be good and bad. I think sometimes.
Do you guys, this organization who's been kind of a stable community for WoW esports, or you as on air talent, do you guys think about this problem, or are you trying to maybe create some more like newbie friendliness to it, where it's kind of like, hey, people who are super casual in a while, are there any outreach programs, if you will, or any direction that you take on air for people who are just WoW general fans?
Yeah, and that's like the hardest part I think about your job as a not your hardest part, but that's like one of the major things I think with anyone that's, casting or hosting is like do you how do you make things interesting for the casual viewer and try and make them stick around if they're not playing at a super high level while also appealing to like the hardcore super high rated arena fans. Um so I don't really go much in I don't really know if like the WoW esports team, I don't know how much talk that they have about this behind the scenes of like how they attract new players, but I think that's something certainly on the forefront of like myself and my fellow casters mind and how we go about doing things is like not getting too much into the nitty gritty so that people can understand things, but also not being like, oh, this player just stunned that other player and that means that they can't cast anymore, like that's boring, for anyone. But so yeah, it's, I think it's always part of it. And it's probably like that for any sport, I could imagine.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. It's always the difficulty of when to be super analysis and when to be super newbie friendly. And then
Mhm.
any amount of programs that you can do, that's currently the struggle of almost every single Blizzard esport is like, is Blizzard going to do anything? No. For
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
What can we do? So that, comes down to like the content of these tournaments. And
Mhm,
um, so I think it is something that every esport struggles with, but as opposed to when you look at League of Legends and you see that there's, I mean, still compared to the amount of people who play it, the amount of people who watch it is still probably,
mhm,
small. Yeah, WoW esports is in that particular position
mhm.
where, I'm not sure if I feel like Blizzard should have pushed it more,
Yeah,
but I guess
be nice.
it's Blizzard, so.
Maybe like getting it embed on the launcher or something.
Ooh,
But
yeah, that is
yeah.
a very common Blizzard desire. If you
But
guys could put us anywhere prominent, that'd be great.
yeah, I
No?
know,
Okay,
right?
cool.
I think we have like ads in Call of Duty in CDL. I saw
Oh,
some
really?
ads, but they were ads for the game and not
Oh, well.
the
Well, there you go.
tournament.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
but I mean, lately we do actually this year, this last, so 2020, early in these years are melting together. I don't know if that's just me or not, but keep forgetting it's 2021. So earlier in 2020, we actually did hire someone specifically for the WoW esports social medias, which I don't think we've ever had. Like for WoW esports
Oh,
specifically.
I think I know who it is too, actually.
This?
Oh, maybe not, maybe not.
Oh, okay. She's
Never
great.
mind.
But and so we have been doing like things where we'll have like a transmog competition and we'll show the winners, in the middle of the show sometimes, and there's like fun questions of the week that people can answer and their question can show on broadcast. So that's been cool to see develop as we're having more of a social media presence, whereas before we didn't really have one at all, because we would get tweeted out on like the Warcraft Twitter sometimes, which is kind of weird because not everyone following the Warcraft Twitter is a esports fan, so like they were kind of, it seemed like they didn't want to do that all the time. Not really sure, but it's cool to have our own Twitter now, at least.
No, that's super awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Technically we've had one, but I mean, I actually thought the one that we had that was good worked with
Hmm.
you guys, Mika, but I guess I was wrong.
Mika.
Darn.
Yeah, I don't know
She
them.
was fantastic,
Okay.
posting all the time, memes, in touch with the community, and
Yeah.
then she left a while ago, and then we've
Oh,
I think our esport Twitter has retweeted 2 Diablo things, maybe.
and that's it.
I think they also did one tweet for Katowice, but it's kind of a running joke for us that like,
Oh.
you know, you
Oh no.
watch StarCraft esports Twitter for Diablo updates or something like
Oh.
that.
Oh man.
Something
I
like
know
that.
that. I know that struggle.
Exactly.
I get you.
So
Sometimes you
anyways,
really got to lean into the like, man, small indie company, even though you
yes.
should be on their side, but sometimes you're
Yes.
like, why?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I usually like I'm sure there's some people at Blizzard who's probably upset with me, but
Hmm.
usually what happens, and this has been consistent amongst everyone that I've talked to, is like as you were saying as well, like the community team is awesome and they're really passionate
Yep.
and they
Yeah.
really want to make things work. And it's just always an issue of like the people higher
The
than them.
higher up people.
Yeah. And I'm
Exactly.
pretty sure they're not watching
Exactly.
my podcast. So
Hopefully not. Please,
Eh,
we like our jobs, Mr. Blizzard, please.
yes, exactly. Please, please don't tell people to fire me. But anyways. So I kind of come in close to the end of the podcast here.
Mhm,
Um, I'll give my last question, I guess, which is one of the
mhm,
very general ones, which is, what is your advice to people who are looking to get into hosting,
mhm.
for getting a job that you've been, I guess, you've seen work or works for you, and then
Yeah.
what should they be prepared for when they get their job?
I would say the best way to get into it would to be either creating your own esports related content in the community that you want to be involved in, or reaching out to people that are currently doing that and just like volunteering to help. Because I don't feel like people realize that like there really aren't a lot of for whatever. And I don't know about StarCraft, but it seems like in WoW, like it doesn't seem there's a lot of people actually starting their own thing in WoW and getting their name out there. Like I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, I would love to work in esports, but I don't know how. But then they don't actually take the steps to do that. Like I don't see people like creating creating something to get people's attention, if you be it like if you want to produce something, then produce something. If you want to be a host or a caster, create a video casting over a game and send it to people. Like not a lot of people do that, and I feel like more people should because you would definitely get noticed. Um, and then if you do get these jobs, especially at a community level, like be prepared to work a lot and a lot of different jobs. Because at a smaller scale, you're going to have to do a lot of different things, um, and wear a lot of different hats. Like when I first started out, I was doing adminning, I was like editing videos together, I was narrating those videos, I was scrubbing the clips, I was moderating the chat, I was putting out social media tweets, I was creating merch, I was designing graphics, I was manually gathering data like for stats producing, like I've mentioned. So it's a lot of work, and you have to have passion for it, and you can't just want to be in esports just because you want to be in esports. Like that's not enough. It sounds really cool, but there's a lot more to it than that, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's not just like fun video games all the time. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it's that it's there's a like I do a lot of paperwork. I do a lot of answering emails. That's not very fun, and so yeah, be prepared to work to work really hard because esports is still very new. And unfortunately there aren't a lot of like standards set. Um, and you're gonna have to set those standards yourself, I think.
It's very good advice.
Mm-hmm.
And you're definitely right about the amount of work, the amount of fun that people are having on the camera is, in front of loads of work that doesn't even
Yep.
come up,
Yeah.
that got them there. So definitely, it's gonna be a lot of work, and I think that is some very good advice, something that I've
Mm-hmm.
recently been thinking about. You just, like, wormed your way into my brain, actually,
Mm-hmm.
about doing content. One of the first things that I did, and I forget about this because 'cause it's been so long ago, one of the first things that I did was that I love StarCraft, and I was on Tumblr, and I
Yeah.
actually made a show with a bunch of other Tumblr StarCraft fans called
Oh my god.
TumblrCraft. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and of course, like, barely anyone watched it, but it still was
Yeah.
something that I could put out there and be like, I did this, and I worked from
Exactly.
there. And I think that's absolutely something that's always there's always room for more stuff in, like, almost every esport.
Always. Yeah. And I think like for every person that says, I really want to get into esports, like I really want to do tournaments and stuff, there's even less people actually just trying and starting something themselves. So like if you already think that that market's saturated, like I would say go for it anyways because it's really the only way to get noticed these days. You can't just it's not enough to reach out. I feel like it's not enough, especially if you don't have any experience on, to show people that you've done something. You have to like be messaging these people that are creating tournaments or whatever, or just doing it yourself. Because you can say it all day, on Twitter, oh, I really want to get into esports, but you have to make it happen for yourself these days, I think.
Yeah. And whether you find something new, to
Mhm.
do. That's something that's missing. That's fantastic.
That's even better.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. But as you
Mhm.
said, even if it's already been done, seems like it's oversaturated. If you can do something with a unique twist, or you are the unique twist on it, that's
Mhm.
also great. Like,
Mhm.
almost everyone in esports, especially esports, but like in most jobs, to be honest, like are going to be coming from a place where it seemed like everyone else could do the job or is
Mhm.
doing the job, and they still rose from that place, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of the old get started doing something, anything,
Yeah.
to get somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how my career started was at the community level. So
very good
by people
advice.
that just created tournaments because they
Yeah,
saw a niche and they filled it.
yep, that's excellent advice. I really like that.
Hmm.
So my Patreon's question here,
Okay.
so we wrap it up, is this might require some explanation, but
Uh,
with classic TBC Arena coming later this year, so I guess there's a lot of WoW coming out. So
yeah.
classic, the Burning Crusade Arena coming later this year. Do you see multiple competitive scenes emerging, and how do you think this could affect players and talents and organizations?
Ooh, wait, this question was just for me by
Yeah,
like a viewer of your. Oh, I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
so
From my
special.
Patreon.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, person. Yeah, Burning Crusade is coming out soon, and Classic was really popular. And if Burning Crusade is just as popular as Classic was, now you have Arena in the mix because um, that's yeah. Do you know what that is? Like Burning Crusade, they're kind of like re-releasing their old expansions.
Do I know? Oh yeah, of course I
Yeah.
know. I've been
Okay.
playing WoW since
Oh,
the
right, because
beginning.
you said you played WoW. Yeah. So
No
yeah. So
worries.
now I am like, sure. I haven't heard of anything that Blizzard is doing, but I am sure you're gonna see, people, some of the World of Warcraft like orgs in the scene making their own tournaments. There's absolutely no way that you don't see people doing Burning Crusade tournaments. Um, and I'm just gonna put this out there. If anyone wants me to host them, I'm super down. But yeah, I think I know that the people specifically on the desk with me, Zico and Vinricky and Supi's all are gonna be playing Burning Crusade, so I'm sure we're gonna see them casting some as well. Um, as far as like where viewership is gonna go and if we're gonna see a program for that specifically, I couldn't say. I have no idea. Um, and I almost worry a little bit about the health of the current arena scene in retail and how Burning Crusade will affect it. So we'll have to see, but I'm not sure. But I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be popular for sure.
Is so is there right now a split between retail, that is the current expansion,
Hmm.
versus classic, which is out right now?
Um, there there is. There definitely is. I think the community got sort of split up for I mean, especially when it was first released, you saw people that had been playing retail just completely ditch retail and go play classic and like they were streaming classic, like they didn't play any of BFA. Now it seems to have mellowed out a little bit and you have like people that just play classic and people that just play retail. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure where that split's going to be now that BC is coming out because it has um arena games. So I'm not sure. I'm not
Did
sure what's gonna
classic
happen.
not have arena games?
No, classic doesn't
Okay, all
have
right,
arena. Yeah, it kind of just had rating.
gotcha.
So yeah, it should be. I expect to see a lot of broadcasted Burning Crusade PvP tournaments. Who it will be from, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it will happen.
Does this create just more opportunities for talent in World of Warcraft, or does it actually create some strife, some choosing one
Um,
side or the other?
I don't know because I know a lot of the people that cast Arena currently also have the ability to cast Burning Crusade games because they're probably going to play Burning Crusade and they also played in Burning Crusade, like especially the people on the ADBC desk. So I think it depends. I think it could. I think it could create more opportunities for sure. But if they're like larger scale events, it might be a little bit top heavy. If that makes sense of like who they grab for talent, but we'll see.
Yeah, do
We'll
you
see.
think that there's other people coming in from like bigger esports that are interested in doing this?
You don't see a lot of that in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Our community is so like in a bubble. It's like I don't think we've ever had like another. You mean like talent, other
Yeah,
like casters coming in? Like don't. I very rarely see that. I know like a CS:GO caster did one event one time. It was like a Race the World verse event. But other than that, it's like very like we tend to pull casters from the community rather than other games.
yeah.
I've noticed. So which I think is what the only reason I got my opportunity was because they could have easily hired somebody else that was already more established as a on camera um, commentator, but they decided to go with me. And like one of the things that was cited was because I was a part of the community, regardless of my experience. So yeah, we'll see. I think if they threw their name in the hat, somebody else from another esport, they'd be considered. But if it continues in the pattern that I've seen, they're gonna just ask other classic players like, "Hey, you should come cast this."
I do wonder though, because like, obviously Classic was huge for a lot of people. Burning Crusade's
Hmm.
going to be huge. I feel like a lot of people, like, I feel like I can't say the height of popularity, but I guess just for like my generation, like so many people that I know are excited for like Burning Crusade or
Yeah,
Wrath of the Lich
yeah.
King. I'm waiting for Wrath of the Lich King. And I feel
Same.
like it's going to be one of those things, like Pokemon is now trending again, the
Hmm.
card game. And I'm just like, what? And like all these like super famous esports people are like, I'd love to do card game Pokemon. And I'm like, what?
Were they open the packs? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean? Oh my
Yes, that
gosh,
became
I
super
know.
popular. But then
Like
they're also like getting into the trading card game again because of it,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. That's so random how that exploded.
Yeah. So
I don't
I
get it, but
wonder if this is going to be the same thing for, the Burning Crusade having arena or the next expansion, whatever, if that's going to be,
mhm.
um, Golden Boy, who is in a Pokemon actually, and it's like one of the guys I'm quoting is he's like, I would love to
Yeah,
cast Pokemon. If he would be like, I loved the Burning Crusade. I total nostalgia. Let me get in on that.
I would
Um,
love to
I wonder
see
if that
it.
could change.
Yeah, I mean, I would be like stoked if Golden Boy wanted to come and do a Burning Crusade tournament for sure. There was a lot of classic events that I saw, and I didn't. Again, it was just people that were already in the World of Warcraft community. Um, so I don't know. I would love to see that. It might change since there's more of an opportunity for esports competitions with Burning Crusade because of the addition of Arena. So yeah, we may see that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd be down. I would not be opposed to that.
Yeah, that'd be I mean, more spotlight on the esport in general
Mhm,
is
mhm.
always fantastic for the people in esports. It's one thing if
Yeah.
Shroud plays World of Warcraft Classic, but if he did Arena and like,
It's true.
now he's co-streaming like Valorant, if he could co-stream, WoW, I mean, that's
Yeah.
generally just good news for people.
Uh-huh.
But it's interesting again because World of Warcraft generally something new in
Mhm.
a gaming atmosphere would be brilliant for bringing people in. For World of Warcraft, it's always that weird split. So
Yeah.
who knows what the future holds, I guess is the thing we have to say about everything in esports in general.
Well, if you
So
wanna come, cast a Burning Crusade tournament, I'll put a good word in.
oh my goodness. I mean, to be fair, I actually would know the spells. I'm trying to get into like other esports commentary just to like see if
Uh-huh.
I have fun with it, right? I'm
Yeah.
like trying to learn Valorant and I'm like, oh, I don't oh shit. Okay, what was that called? But I did play a
Shiny
heck of a lot.
wall,
Yeah, exactly.
bulbous thing that you can't see
Exactly.
anymore.
That place with the thing, you got it.
Yeah.
Um, but for Burning Crusade and I actually would know a lot. I know a shocking
Really?
amount.
Ah.
I mean, of the spells, like not of arena. Like I'd still just be like, oh, I guess that was a good thing that that person did.
Yeah. He died, so I guess they did something right,
Nice.
His
Uh,
health went down.
yes, brilliant, brilliant commentary.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, it's been a pleasure. I learned a lot
Yeah.
about World of Warcraft esports. I hope you guys continue being, as stable as you guys seem to be, and
Thank you.
I don't check out Arena too often. I'm going to be honest, but
Okay.
I did really love the World First events. I feel like that whole like speedrunning type thing.
Oh, it's
Um,
so fun.
yeah, is a lot of fun. Like people obviously
So
are
fun.
into speedrunning,
Mhm.
with the rise of it lately, and just awesome games on Quick and whatnot. And I
It's
think
the
it's kind of the
perfect
same.
event to
It's a
like
bit of the
put on
same
in the
thing.
background. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a bit of the same style of commentary. But
Yeah.
you were saying,
Oh, I was just saying like it's the perfect event cuz that's why I like it cuz you can watch it and not be a WoW fan. put it on the background and be like, oh, what's their best percentage now? And yeah, good,
Yeah,
good
exactly.
stuff.
But yeah, it sounds like you're getting a lot of opportunities as well outside of WoW, so that's always good news as well.
Couple. Yeah, I'm really, really grateful. I got to do a couple of tier 2 events for Overwatch, and I've done a Halo event, which was really fun. So yeah, I'm the same way you are. I'm trying to see if I can branch out a little bit and do other games because I think it makes you a better at your job. I think
Oh
being
yeah.
thrown in that environment, doing different games, working with different people.
hmm I certainly agree with that. I think doing a lot of games and trying out all like the positions of on air talent also just
Hmm.
like helps you in every way. So
Yeah,
it's nothing but good news. You know, to some communities it seems like a frightening, like we're losing people that we love type thing. But
yeah,
generally for esports nowadays, it's going to be as many opportunities as you can get, especially if you're having fun with them.
yeah.
The people are going to like it, and thus like you, and thus you have a stable job,
It's
which
true.
is, you know, the pot at the end of the rainbow type thing in
Yeah.
esports is a stable
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, it's all any of us really want at the end of the day,
Yeah.
especially as an on-camera person.
But that's going to be the end of the podcast. Thank you for giving your insights into
Yeah.
everything. Lovely
Thank you for
time.
having me.
Where can people generally find you?
So I'm really, really active on Twitter. I'm super addicted. I think I even told you that because when you DM'd me, I think I like insta responded for the when you initially wanted me on this podcast. But yeah, I'm Iya Wow on Twitter, so EIYA Wow on Twitter, and everything else like Instagram. I'm IOL as well, and then I stream quite a bit as well. I'm just Aya on Twitch. So yep.
Do you have any hosting gigs coming up?
Um, yeah, I've got AWC. We've got our our circuit series starting up soon. So it's gonna be round robin. It's the top 8 teams from both regions at youtube.com/warcraft. That's gonna be in not this weekend, but the next. This weekend's gonna be MDI, which is a different set of casters. But I've actually been making content for them. I do some pre-recorded interview segments with the players in that one. So you see me in MDI a little bit, but those guys are great, and it's a good time as well. So yeah,
Very cool.
that's all I got coming up at the
Yeah.
moment.
I have to check some of that out.
Yeah,
Well, that just about cuts it, guys. Thank you all for watching. Please check out the Patreon. Please follow her at all of the social medias that's on the graphic. And I will see you guys for episode 29 in 2 weeks. See ya.